there was ever going to be a video that no one saw, I wanted to be this one. I've been encouraged by my mentor to share my testimony, and it makes me extremely nervous. I don't feel shame, but I am embarrassed. You can probably tell by the way I'm speaking right now. Normally, I'm more confident when I come and speak about the things of the Lord. But this makes me nervous. Okay, so here it is. I've typed it out, and it is a few pages, so this may be more than one part. However, I won't really be upset if no one watches this. I mean, just being honest. All right, so let's just dive right in and see what God does with it. I have always believed there was a God. However, I didn't know Jesus was God, and I didn't go to church. Looking back now, I was very much the God of my life. I have always been a good student and had a passion for learning and growing. I was a go-getter, as they say. If I wanted something and was passionate about it, I was usually pretty successful at achieving whatever that goal was. As a teen, I was promiscuous, to put it lightly. I didn't grow up with my dad. I actually never met him. I had a stepdad, but he was very reserved. I spent a lot of my teenage years looking for love and validation in all the wrong places and in all the wrong ways. Lord help me. I loved the attention from men, but I never truly felt wanted or loved. When I went to college, things escalated further. When I became 18, I found myself dating older men, unknowingly searching for that father figure. I loved attention from men, and that led to a girl introducing me to the world of gentlemen's clubs, which is a funny thing to call them, because in those dark, blacked out buildings, they are anything but gentlemen. I had a trial night and was immediately hooked by the attention, validation, and money that I received. I graduated college by the skin of my teeth because I was entrenched in my new lifestyle. I met an older man and we began dating. It was a horrible and toxic relationship. He was very manipulative, but I didn't know how to change the situation. It wasn't until I found myself pregnant that I knew I had to leave and finally gathered the courage to do so. I called my mom, and she immediately drove the 3 hours from Las Vegas to Los Angeles to pick me up. At the time, I wondered how she was immediately ready to come and get me, no questions asked. As a mother myself now, I know that she was prepared for it and was waiting for me to see the situation for myself and to call home. Since I became pregnant, I have called my daughter my angel for being the thing that saved my life. I didn't know God's sovereign hand was orchestrating it all then, but I know it now. From there, I stayed with my mom and got back on my feet. When my daughter was 2 years old, I met my now husband. We were married in 4 months, and I had finally found the love I had been searching for. My husband is great. I had no idea that there was a God who loved me even more than that. We began building our lives, and about 5 years before God called me, I started a handmade children's clothing line. It grew quickly to a business that was able to support my family. I received a lot of recognition in the industry as well from companies like Etsy, Apple, and Good Morning America. The company was so popular that there was a good year of time where orders took me 6 to 8 weeks to make and ship out, and I would still sell out weekly. At the time, this was something I would brag about. Look at what I had accomplished. But I wasn't happy. I was working long hours, 14 to 16 hours some days. My children barely saw me, and my youngest at the time was acting out a lot. Because I was making good money, we were spending money left and right without saving much because we figured more would come. Worst of all was my marriage. I was prideful and used the success of my business as an excuse to not give my husband attention. I mean, I was a boss babe after all. It's embarrassing to think about that now. I was always either answering customers' emails or making items. I had no time for myself, my family, or anything else. From the outside looking in, it seemed great, but I had no peace. I was mentally and emotionally exhausted from battling one problem after another. I am not a crier at all. The stress of the business and lack of peace had me in tears more than I cared to admit. I knew I wanted to stop the business, but I wasn't sure how or if that would ever be an option, especially since my family depended on the income. I had tried a few things to make my situation better. I hired on help, which was lovely at first. Eventually, I realized that overseeing people was just as difficult, if not more, than just doing it myself. I tried to cut back on how often I was releasing new items. I thought if I could just catch up on orders, I would be less stressed out. When I would catch up, though, I'd feel a sense of panic because the stack of orders was a security blanket for me. Each one meant money for my family, and we couldn't afford to lose any of that. I also tried adding in new styles to the selections of clothing I offered, thinking it would bring back some level of excitement for what I was doing, and I wouldn't feel held captive by this business. None of those things worked. I truly loved sewing. I still do, but I had lost the happiness that running this business once gave me. Interestingly enough, though, I was still very much in a prideful state. As unhappy as I was, I would encourage myself by reminding myself how far I had come and how most small businesses would have given anything to have the sales volume and recognition that I had. Those constant reminders from myself and my customers of how amazing I was literally fed my pride. It was there in pride that God called me. I had just resolved a big financial issue in my business. I needed capital and it was a struggle to get it. After about a week of trying different things, I secured the investment and I was on cloud 9. Thoughts of, I solved the problem, I did it. Of course I could do it. Why did I ever doubt myself? Were rolling through my mind as I took my 2 kids to the grocery store. Because I had been so focused on securing the money for the business, I had neglected the basic needs of my home and we were in desperate need of a shopping trip. I gathered what we needed and headed to checkout. There was an older lady in front of me who began talking to my kids. She finished checking out, and as my kids went through the checkout line to look at the little vending machines of trinkets on the other side, that lady stopped and continued to talk to my kids. I thought, this is so weird. Who just hangs out and talks to someone's children? I watched her closely as the cashier rang me up, getting more and more annoyed at that weird lady. Finally, the cashier was finished and I slid my card to pay. It declined. I tried again and it declined. My annoyance was growing. I tried again, declined. I checked my bank account and could see that I had money in it. A line began to form behind me and my embarrassment was escalating, but I refused to admit defeat. Go on to the next part.